Alright, so here we are. We're at Monza. I don't know which version of the track this is. I think this is the full version of the track. We are in our Wyra, which that's how you pronounce it. I looked it up. And I checked, and there are 4 Zonda Sync Roadsters, which is good because they only made 5 of them ever. So 4/5 of the world's Sync Roadsters are here in this race, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Just go with it. It's video games. So here we are in the Wyra. First things first, the Wyra is actually that guy. Oh, he did a spinny spin. That's how this thing is, like, wicked fast and wicked loose. Like, if you screw up, you will probably crash into a wall somewhere. So the Wyra is the newer of the 2 cars from Pagani. It is, I think, a couple of years old by now. If you recognize the name, if you're also a Top Gear fan, you may remember it as the car that, I don't know if it still holds the record, but it did for a very long while hold the record for the fastest lap around the Top Gear test track. And I'll mention that in a minute, something else, so we just went under. So going into this section here, I think this is the Ascari Volante, which I believe I mentioned before. Yeah, this is the full version of Monza, so we get to go through the full vision of Parabolica, where we accelerate out onto the main stretch. Brake. Oh my goodness, we didn't hit the guy in front of us. Okay, that's good. That was really close. He braked before we were ready. So, no chicane here, just full on out onto the front straight. That guy's got gold wheels. Oh. I didn't realize I was pushing him off the road. Interesting. Apparently a jackass. So, for those of you wondering a little bit about Pagani, it is a company, and it's founded by a guy named Horacio Pagani. He is an Argentinian-born designer of cars. He used to work for Lamborghini. And the actual story of how Pagani and the Zonda came to be is fairly interesting. He, like I mentioned, he worked at Lamborghini for a while. He was their chief engineer in the 80s, and he was really, really into composite technologies. He was very interested in carbon fiber, and he suggested that Lamborghini really adopt this. Like, you guys gotta get on this. You guys gotta get on this carbon fiber thing. You can make your cars so much better with it. And to do that, he out of his own pocket, he went out and got a loan for an autoclave so he can make composite parts and build his own prototype of the famous Lamborghini Countach, which I forget what he called it. It was like the Countach something that started with an E, but Evoluzione, I think. And the whole thing was basically just a prototype car that he built using aluminum and carbon fiber. And it was to kind of prove that you could build a supercar out of these materials and have it perform. And Lamborghini saw it, and they said, well, that's interesting, but we don't think it will hold up in a crash. And Ferrari is not very much interested in this, and Ferrari is, of course, at their time, in the 80s, their biggest rival. So they said, thanks, but no thanks, we're going to pass on this. And Pagani was not very happy about that. And he was probably even less happy when a year later Ferrari came out with the F40. This was like 1987 he made his prototype. In 88 they came out, I believe, with the... I may have the years off by 1 or 2, but I think it was 88, maybe 89, they came out with the F40, which is a very famous car. It's Ferrari's more well-known recent supercars. You've probably seen it before. But yeah, they came out with the F40, and the F40 was a road car that had all these composites in it, like carbon fiber and whatnot. so everyone was like, "Oh, Ferrari is so great! Look at this! They came out with this, awesome car," and Lamborghini was kind of left in the dust. Is that? Oh, okay, that was a sign. I was wondering what that was. But yeah, eventually, a couple of years later, Pagani himself decided, you know what? If Lamborghini's not going to get on board with this, I'm out. And he left. He took the autoclave that he bought with his loan, and he started up the car company it's named after him, Pagani. And eventually they went out and made the Zonda, which was a sports car that used a lot of these high-tech composite parts, carbon fiber and stuff like that, very lightweight car. And the Huayra is kind of an evolution of the Zonda. They're incredibly powerful cars, and I mean, this is very beautiful. But you can tell there's a lot of Zonda styling, right down to the exhaust there being in the middle of the rear end of the car. And over the curb. Sorry, cut the track, not time validated. But long story short, Pagani kind of got the last laugh because he's got this supercar factory that he's building cars for the elite and wealthy, and Lamborghini is basically, well, to be honest, Lamborghini's owned by, I think Volkswagen owns them now, if I remember right. Volkswagen Porsche Group owns them, and they're busy doing absolutely nothing of value to anybody, except occasionally making a really nice prototype car. They haven't really been as relevant in the supercar world for a couple of years. But that's the story of Pagani, and coming up down this stretch here, we're gonna pass underneath like what looks like a bridge right here where the sign is. This right there, that is actually not a pedestrian bridge or a car bridge. That is the old oval at Monza. If you took a look at the logo for Monza, you saw there was an oval there, and you're wondering where does it go. That is actually where it passes over the road course, and nobody races on that anymore because it's fairly old and fairly unsafe to race on. Just to race F1 cars on that, believe it or not, and it was fairly unsafe back in the day too. And the oval actually right here on the right, where this left, where that track kind of spits in back there, you can actually see the oval in the background there. That's where it kind of spits out. And there might be a ramp in on the, yeah, there it is right there. You can see it. Oh goodness, oh goodness, oh goodness, oh goodness, oh. I was paying too much attention. I'm sorry, track. I was paying way too much attention. You can see the oval where it comes in there with the banking on the right. So yeah, it still exists, but it's not really in raceable condition. So unfortunately, that means that you're probably never going to see another race on it again, which is kind of a shame, but at the same time, probably a good thing, considering how unsafe it used to be. Alright, there we go. I like the little flaps here in the back, acting like air brakes. It's really interesting. So you can see they kind of move up and down as we accelerate, keeping the downforce on the back of the car so it doesn't go flying. Yeah, it shows this over the Roadster just because it's newer, it's faster. We shouldn't have any problem getting on pole with this thing. We'll finish out this lap, and I think we'll skip ahead to the race. We'll just assume I'm going to qualify in the pole as long as I don't wreck it. We've been going for about 10 minutes anyways. It's plenty of time to talk. So let's finish up this lap here at Monza. Get right back out onto the front stretch. And here is another completed lap. This would have been a good lap too. Shame. But I will be right back. Alright, here we are. Look at us. Look at us in our shiny little Huayra. Look at that. It's such a beautiful car that we will never get to drive, except in video games. So away we go. It's a there's a Zonda Roadster right behind us. Sync Roadster's right there on my right. I didn't really pick that one because it's got an open top, and I'm kind of thinking, maybe not the best thing to have in case you get in an accident. Roadsters, they're, open top cars like that. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it. I mean, they put a roll cage on that thing. There's, what's going to keep it from crushing my skull? So you got 5 laps around here. Wow, a little bit longer than I thought it would be. I imagined it'd only be like 2 or 3 laps. And we kind of almost balls it up there, but we've got a bit of a lead. There we go. And laps are around 2 minutes here, so we should be looking at close to a 10-minute race. So as far as tracks go, Monza is so incredibly fun to race on. It's a lot like Zolder in that it's got that, it's even older than Zolder. It's been around since the 1920s, and some various former way, but it's such a beautiful track. It just runs through the middle of this park in Monza, Italy, and it's so incredibly fast. There's no real super tight hairpin turns. There are tighter turns, obviously. Parabolica is fairly flat, so you can't really take it all out. It's not banked. I mentioned that before. But there's so many straights. The turns are, not turns where it's like, okay, I gotta go down this big long straight and take a hairpin and go back the other way. There's little chicanes that they've added that they've had to add over the years to keep car speeds down, because otherwise it would be crazy pants. There we go. But all in all, it's a fairly fun track to drive. There we go. And coming up to this first chicane area right here, which we have gone wide on again, but lap time still counts, and we're 7 seconds faster. It's mostly attributed to the fact that we had to start from a standing stop, and this time we were doing a flying lap. So there is always going to be, when you start from a standing start, you're always going to have that variance in time on lap 2, because you have a flying start coming down that front stretch the second time through. Yeah, there's just some wonderful charm about Monza where you really feel like this track has kind of the storied history that it has. It feels, like this great Colosseum for racing in Italy. Even if it's not perhaps the best track for technical skill anymore, it's still, I guess, one of the best tracks to race on, just for pure enjoyment. And it's just a great all-around track. It's also, there's a rule that I was told when I was a slightly younger man, that the best tracks in motorsports are the ones that are shaped like pistols, and Monza is most definitely shaped like a pistol. It also applies to Spa. I guess Coda is kind of shaped like a knife, so maybe that counts a little bit. But yeah, the reason for that, I think, is because a lot of those tracks, they don't have all these hairpins. They have fairly gradual turns. They have long straights, which produces exciting racing. So that's probably the reason why that idiom that I've heard kind of makes sense. But yeah, I was gonna do actually an entire special where, I don't know if I'm gonna do it now since we're doing a Pagani Club Day race, but I was gonna do a whole special where I talk about Monza and its history and everything about it, where we went around the track. I think I was gonna do the like the 60 68T Lotus. Oh wait, not 68T. Like the Lotus from the 60s that's in this game. I don't think it's called a 68T. I think I'm confusing it with something else, but there's like an old school Lotus F1 car in this game that I was going to take around Monza just for funsies the same weekend to do the Italian Grand Prix. I don't know if I'm going to do that now because I've kind of talked a bit about the course in this video, and I feel like I would basically be overlapping people who've watched the series all the way through. I'd be overlapping content and just be with a different car. So we'll see. We'll see. I might still do it just for the heck of it. Maybe talk a little bit more about the history and whatnot once I've had some time to research it. Okay. I still got the track there even though I did not have a fast lap. It's a shame. I braked a little too late there. There we go. Yeah, there's a lot of braking a little too late here, man. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The lap time's been validated anyways. Damn it, pay attention to the road, Nihon. You're probably under braking because you're talking at the same time and focusing more on what you want to talk about. But yeah, I've always, I've kind of been happy, I guess. Not necessarily always been happy, but I've been happy so far with the track choices in Project Cars. Obviously, there's obviously, I could say, a bunch of tracks I'd like to see included. I'd love to see Belle Isle on here, just from a pure standpoint. If that's my home track of sorts, Mid-Ohio, I'd love to see that. Like, there's some tracks that are just silly I'd like to see. The old Cleveland Grand Prix or Cleveland race, Berkeley Fred Airport. That track on here would be just mind-blowing. It's a very weird track, but you see a lot of the polls and stuff. People just want like old Spa, and maybe they want Monza with the oval, like the old Monza layout. And there's so many other choices of things that would be great that it's hard to pick a list. It's hard to really pick a list. I may have to do that for a future video for some background chatter as we race. If it gets to be a race like this where I'm just dominating everybody. But I'm sure I could come up with a solid list of like 5 or 6 courses to pick from and spend a race or two talking about why each one should be in this game. Oh, way too late in the braking. Oh goodness. Oh, I guess that counts. Oh, we're on lap 5. Thank goodness. But I think that might actually be a fun exercise to do too. And I know I can brake at that spot right. I could brake at that chicane at the right spot. I've just been braking too late. Haven't really been paying attention. But that might be a good exercise for me as well. Though some of my choices are already in the game, even if they're not actually in the game as a real track, maybe as a fictional version of said track. I'm not gonna mention any names in particular, Suzuka, but yeah, it's hard to pick when some of the good choices are already in the game. Yet at the same time, I'm sure I could find a couple of reasonable candidates, but it may take some time to figure out, and I really would have to kind of put some of my homerism aside for Mid-Ohio and whatnot. That might be hard to do. I'm sorry. But come up to the finish line. Yay, we won a race. Excellent work. Look at that. We won a clear 6 seconds over a Zonda Sync Roadster. So, we have got another little win under our belts here. Look at that. Fastest time qualifying and in race. Champion! Yay! We won Monza Club Day.